Hey everybody. Not really sure where to start. I'm going to play a couple of phone calls for you. I'm going to tell you about myself, my experience with narcissistic parents. Both of them narcissistic. My father passed away 5 years ago now. Both of them were alcoholics. Both of them were abusive. My childhood and my brother's childhood were a nightmare, filled with abuse, physical violence, emotional put-downs. Never knew what to expect in our home from one minute to the next, really. We've had many rides to the police station in the middle of the night because my dad was drunk, went ballistic, beat the crap out of my mother, busted windows, busted the house all up. I mean, this didn't happen once. This happened, I don't know, probably 25 or 30 times, maybe more. And it was horrible. It was a horrible life. My mother, on top of that, I believe my mother is schizophrenic because she seems to have no memory of these things that she's done. Even since she's been sober, I mean, the horrible things she continues to do and say. She'll call up and throw these tirades on my voicemail, on other people's voicemail, and she claims she has no memory of it. She just denies it. So I'm not sure if she's just a narcissist, a child abuser. She also molested my brother when he was 14. She was drunk at the time. He was at home, sleeping on the couch. My dad and her were separated. I was already out of the house and married, had kids of my own by this time. My brother was 7 years younger than me. He also is dead now. He passed away last year, drank himself to death at the age of 49. But he woke up on the couch to my mom performing oral sex on him. And I was horribly traumatized, horrified, like you would be. And, of course, she denies all of this. There were other boys that she molested. Actually, she had a regular, ongoing sexual relationship with a boy that was 2 years older than me when I was a child. And it was known. It was kind of common knowledge. His mother pulled me aside as I was walking home from school one day and invited me in for cookies and milk. I told her I didn't like milk, so she had some lemonade and proceeded to grill me, trying to find out what was going on with my mother and her son, Billy. And I actually had no idea because I didn't know anything about sex. I knew that Billy came over and went into my house, and I was locked outside until the streetlights came on at night. And her and Billy were in my house with the doors locked. My dad was a truck driver, second shift truck driver, and wasn't at home. And what was going on was sex with a 12-year-old. Billy was 12. And this went on for a couple of years. And then we moved. And Billy wasn't available anymore. There was also my cousin, Mike, who was older than me, about 5 or 6 years older than me. We were at a Christmas party, a family Christmas party, and all of a sudden all hell broke loose. Chairs flying, hair being pulled, people being knocked down, punches thrown. It was just insanity. And what had happened was my mother had been caught in the closet with Mike having sex, and Mike was 14. So then, of course, everybody was drunk. My family was always drunk. And so we left. My aunt ripped my mother's hair out, scratched her face. My dad was also going after my mother. All the way home, he was screaming at her at the top of his lungs, swerving all over the road. We actually drove down the wrong side of the expressway for about, I don't know, 40 miles on ice. And it was actually happened to be a blizzard that night. And so that was one Christmas Eve. My brother told me that there were at least 2 other of his friends that he knows that she had sex with. More than once. But by this time they were like 15. And I guess the boys thought it was cool. They didn't tell my brother about it, but my brother knew. So my mother is disgusting. A very disgusting person. And yet, she has this image of a church lady. She's actually a deaconess in a Lutheran church. Hey everybody. Starting a new channel about narcissistic parents, especially my mother, because the abuse is still going on. I was raised by 2 alcoholic, flaming narcissistic people who really didn't want to have kids. They ran off as young teenagers, and I came along like 11 months later. They were ill prepared to have kids. My mother was 18 when I was born. My father was 16 when I was born. My life was a nightmare. My childhood was a nightmare. My little brother's life was an even worse nightmare. And yet I'm dealing with a mother who is in, I don't know if she's schizophrenic along with it. She claims, to have no knowledge of any of this. She's flaming insane, living a lie, pretending she's this wonderful church lady, and yet continues to emotionally, mentally abuse me. So I cut off contact December 30th of last year. So, and it's October 24th, so it's been a while. But I've done it before, and then I ended up, she would guilt me back into having another, having more relationship with her, letting her back in my life, only to have another insane episode. Not to mention I have all this anger stored up from all the years of abuse and neglect and insanity. I have a lot of anger towards her. I beyond the damage that she does when she does have contact with me, I can't control the anger that I have towards her. I don't ever want to be around her. I don't ever want to be in her presence again. Ever. I don't even want her at my funeral. That's pretty bad, My father passed away 5 years ago, and that was actually on the nightly news. It was a suicide by cop, actually. My life is unbelievable, okay? If I wrote my life story down as a novel, no, everybody would just think it was a fantasy. Nobody would believe how crazy my life's been because of these 2 people. I've done my best. I have 4 grown kids. I have 8 grandkids. Nobody in my family even finished high school. Nobody. I finished high school. I got a nursing license certificate as an LPN. That's how I fed my family. I went beyond that. I went back and got an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. Excuse me, I gotta close my window. I got a pesky cat. I've done a lot. Never drank. After I had my kids, I drank alcoholically until my kids were born. And I swore I wouldn't put my kids through that. So when a little while before I got pregnant with my first son, I put all that down. No drugs. Never been to jail. Never had I think I had a couple of traffic tickets for speeding. That's the extent of my running afoul of the rules. I was the kid that always went overboard trying to be good and invisible, actually. I was the invisible child. I figured if I was perfect, didn't rock the boat in any way, maybe things would be okay at home. Because I internalize things, I guess like human beings do. But, anyway, I want to play a phone call, the one that actually pushed me into going no contact with my abuser mother.
Enter your password.
And she actually called me up, delusional, asked me if I'd been talking to some friend of hers.
Saved message. Hi again, it's me. I really wish you wouldn't have done that to me, Denny. I really do. And I've had a lot of patience with you, and I also want you to know that someone in the family, someone that knows you, I've been told that you and Terry are dealing drugs out there. I sure hope that isn't true, Denise, because you're going to get a very rude awakening. They say that's how you're getting by, Terry not working. So I hope it isn't true, and I sure am going to pray for you, Denny, because you really need it. Bye for now. End this message. To delete this message, press 7. To resave. Next message. Hey again, Denise. I was hoping that you would answer. I am your mother, and it's awful. You have treated your family terrible. Your dad, me, and Dan too. Just awful stuff. It's just the meaner you can be and the rottener you can treat us, the better you seem to feel about yourself and like it. It's very evil, Denny. It's completely evil. I don't even know you anymore. The girl I raised would have done that. We were a loving family, and we were a family. I can't imagine you doing these things. It's been said to me that you two are higher kites on dope up there, and you're dealing it. And there's been a terrible change in you, Denise. And you saying to me, I'm paranoid? No, I am not paranoid. There's nothing wrong with me, Denise. But I sure think there is with you. You're hooked on drugs. And I'd be careful. You mentioned something about making a phone call. I can make phone calls too. And I think maybe this all should be looked into because I think you are a drug addict now, Denise. And that breaks my heart. But there's nothing I can do. And it's like I said, you're going to answer Jesus Christ for the way you treated your dad and me and Dan. Just terrible, hateful and mean. Anything hateful and mean you can do or say, or you do it. And I'm not the person that I was 20 years ago, Denise. I took all I'm going to take from you. And it's too bad, because I love you, you're my daughter, but oh no, you're not going to treat you like this anymore. I need a not sorry, Mom, and I better get it. And I don't leave condos to people that don't like me either. Goodbye. End this message. To delete this message, press 7. To save it, resave. Next message. Bye.
Okay, it goes on. There was probably 5 of those voicemails that day. My phone rang probably 40 times, I would say. All of that because she had called me and said, have you been talking to Shirley, who is some old lady friend of hers that, I haven't seen in probably 30 years. Because someone's been going to my church and telling them bad things about me. And I was like, well, see, this is why I think she's schizophrenic. Because that's insane. I mean, even that her friend would do that to her is insane. I seriously doubt that her friend knows what church she goes to. I know I don't. I live 60 miles from my mother. Thank God. And I said, in this, a normal voice, are you okay? Because that sounds paranoid. And from there, she just went ballistic. She started screaming in my ear, and I just hung up. And that's the last time I've ever spoke to her. It's oh my God. to have a relationship with her is to be, you'd be insane in a matter of a few days. And I've been dealing with this my whole life. I've been accused of being a slut, whore, bitch since before I was in school. Before I started kindergarten, I knew what those words were, and that my mother said them to me, called me those words. I mean, oh, it's hard to know where to start, because, you know, like I said, my life's unbelievable as far as my parents, my family of origin life is concerned. You know, I'm not sure YouTube is even the place for it. I could tell so many stories, and there's a lot of people out there that have mothers like this, I think. I don't think I'm the only one. I've watched other YouTube videos. That's actually where I got the idea of going on YouTube with this stuff, that it could possibly help somebody. And if nothing else, it could help me to maybe work through this. I went to some counseling for this, especially right after I found out that she had molested my little brother. Because I wanted to kill her. I wanted to kill her. Because my brother's life was a complete and utter tragedy. He was just a non-functional alcoholic. Went from one hospital to the jail to the rehab program, back to the hospital, back to the jail, back to the retail. He lived on the street. He had no home. He never was married because he could never keep a relationship going long enough to get to that point. He did father 2 sons, but was not in their lives at all. He didn't work. He wasn't capable of working. He was too effed up to keep any kind of job. And he was also very physically ill from the alcohol abuse. And eventually it ruined his heart and his pancreas, and drank himself to death at 49. I have a younger sister who has been in an institution from the age of 4. Make that 3. I was 4, she was 3. I don't know for sure, but I suspect that what happened to her was shaken baby syndrome. Because one time, this is years ago, I mean, all her symptoms are consistent with shaken baby syndrome, but we're talking 55 years ago, and there was medical science. Nobody knew about shaken baby syndrome. All they knew about was brain damage. Well, my sister's severely brain damaged. She doesn't talk, walk, nothing. She's a vegetable. And one time, about, I would say, maybe 25, 30 years ago, my mother, out of the clear blue, started telling me about a neighbor that we had when I was a little girl, and my sister was a baby, who got real frustrated with her baby and threw her across the room, and she landed on a couch. And the baby was never right after that. And I think that was my sister, because there's no other explanation for what's wrong with my sister. She, as a very young infant, just a few weeks old or a couple of months old or whatever, began having seizures, terrible seizures, and screamed all the time. And that's what happens with shaken baby syndrome. That's what happens with it. And then profound retardation. Lots of, medications, phenobarbital, all that stuff, and all kinds of major medicines to stop the seizures. And then, so she was never out of her crib as I remember as a very young child. She was in her crib all the time until one day we got in the car and we drove her down to Coldwater, Michigan, which was a state home for handicapped people, severely retarded people, people with hydrocephalus, that kind of thing, Down syndrome, whatever, and dropped her off, and we never went back. Which boggles my mind, because I can't understand how a mother could just drive a 3-year-old away, drop her off, and not go back. For years, I'm talking 40 years. Now she goes and visits her. Now she lives in one of these group homes, with like 5 or 6 people, and people take care of them around the clock. She, she has to be fed baby food and whatnot. She's like a giant 55-year-old baby. But my mother goes and visits her, she says every week. I doubt it. It's probably once a month that she actually goes there to visit her. But until just a few years ago, she didn't go visit her. We never went as a family. I was never taken to visit her. My mother didn't go to visit her. And I can remember my aunt, my mother's older sister, having an argument with her about it, why she didn't go visit her. Being a parent of 4 kids, 5 actually, one is in heaven. She had a heart defect and never got to come home from the hospital. She died when she was 30 days old. But being a parent of, these 4 kids, I can't even fathom dropping one of them off at age 3 and not going back. So, anyway, that's a pretty good indicator of the kind of mother we're dealing with. And then, what she did to my brother. My brother, I was already out of the home because I was married. I already had a child or 2, I think. And my brother was 7 years younger than I. He was 14 and was sleeping on the couch. And my mother came home drunk from the bar in the middle of the night. And he woke up with her doing oral sex to him. And it affected him so horribly that he was never able to get over it. And probably because it was never acknowledged. It was just pretend like it never happened kind of thing. He never told anybody. He never got any treatment for it. And it ruined him. And I hold her responsible for that. And anyway, I'm trying to keep my sanity. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm 57. And I've left this stuff in the past. But I can't, because I still get phone calls. I still get this insanity. She won't leave me alone. She keeps calling now. Oh, now her heart. Well, she's been dying for years now. I'd say probably 20 years. She's been dying. So, But anyway, she's really dying now because she has to take heart medicine, which I do too. And so did my brother, but, hers is way worse. But anyway, she's been on the phone on this frickin' mission on this phone like 7-8 times a day, calling me, leaving these messages, well, families just don't act like that. You don't got to talk to me. I mean, I'm never talking to her again. I went no contact last December after the calls you just heard. I'm never, ever, ever talking to her again. Never. And I don't care if she's going to drop dead. I already accepted that. Long time ago. I could drop dead. For that matter, any of us could. She won't let it rest. She won't accept it. She's living in a fantasy world, which, oh my God, I'm sure glad I'm not there, because it's so far out there. But anyway, I'm going to make videos. I'm going to tell my life story, the abuse I've been through, what it does to a person, in the hopes that it might help somebody else. Might. Thanks for watching.